The clinking of silverware was drowned out by the rich man's boisterous laughter, echoing through the upscale restaurant. Just moments after he sneered at Jonah, the waiter, struggling to make ends meet, a sharp gasp rippled through the room. A phone call shattered the air. Jonah's mother had suffered a heart attack. The hospital bill would be desperate. He couldn't afford. But fate had other plans. As Jonah rushed out, the rich man choked on his own arrogance, collapsing into his uneaten meal. My name is Jonah. Sometimes the universe has a way of balancing the scales. I burst through the hospital doors, heart racing and panic swelling in my chest. The fluorescent lights flickered overhead, casting a sterile glow that felt cold against my skin. I could barely focus on the receptionist's words as she explained where to find my mother. All I could think about was Margaret, alone and vulnerable, and the desperate burden of our situation pressing down on me like a heavy weight. I navigated the maze of whitewashed walls and sterile smells until I found her room, the door slightly ajar. When I stepped inside, the sight of my mother lying pale and still on the hospital bed brought tears to my eyes. Machines beeped rhythmically, each sound echoing the urgency of our circumstances. "Mom," I whispered, rushing to her side. I grasped her hand, feeling how small and fragile it had become. She stirred slightly, her eyelids fluttering, and I leaned closer, desperate for a sign that she was still with me. "It's Jonah, Mom. I'm here. You're going to be okay." As I sat there, thoughts of Charles's sneering face replayed in my mind. How could someone so wealthy be so cruel? I recalled the way he had laughed at my struggles, using his fortune to belittle me. In that moment, I felt a surge of anger mixed with despair. He was nothing but a hollow man, wrapped in riches but devoid of kindness. I pushed those thoughts aside, focusing instead on my mother's shallow breaths. I needed to be strong for her and for Lena. After what felt like hours, a doctor entered the room, his expression serious but compassionate. "Jonah, we need to discuss your mother's condition," he said gently. The words that followed blurred together as I struggled to absorb the gravity of what he was saying. The heart attack had caused significant damage, and while she was stable for now, the road ahead would be long and costly. My heart sank further as I imagined the bills piling up, a mountain of debt that I wouldn't be able to scale. "Is there anything I can do?" I asked, desperation creeping into my voice. I wanted to scream at the universe for letting this happen to my family, to feel the injustice of it all. The doctor's eyes softened as he spoke about treatment options and payment plans, but nothing he said could ease the knot of worry twisting in my stomach. I couldn't shake the feeling that everything was crumbling around me. When I finally stepped out of the hospital room, the world outside felt surreal. The bustling streets were a stark contrast to the stillness I had just left. I glanced at my phone, seeing a message from Lena. "I miss you, Jonah. Where are you?" My heart ached for her. At 12 years old, she had already seen too much hardship. And I knew she was carrying the weight of our family's struggles on her small shoulders. I texted her back, promising I would be home soon and that everything would be all right. Yet the uncertainty gnawed at me. I decided to take a detour on my way back, hoping the fresh air would clear my mind. I wandered toward the park, watching as families enjoyed their day, laughing and playing. Each cheerful moment felt like a reminder of what we didn't have. The contrast was sharp, and for a brief moment, I let myself succumb to the darkness creeping in, questions swirling in my mind about our future, about how I would manage everything. Then, as I sat on a bench, lost in thought, a voice broke through my reverie. "Hey there, buddy. You look like you could use a break." I looked up to see a man wearing a bright smile and an unassuming outfit. He didn't seem like he belonged here, but something about him drew me in. I sighed, trying to muster a smile in response. "Just a rough day," I admitted, feeling an unexpected urge to share. "My mom's in the hospital, and I'm trying to figure out how to keep everything together." He nodded knowingly, as if he understood more than I realized. "That's tough. You're doing your best, and sometimes that's all we can do." His words resonated, a reminder that even in darkness, there were hopeful flickers of light if we were willing to look for them. As we talked, he shared stories of his own struggles, how he had once been in a similar situation and had learned the importance of resilience. I was surprised at how much comfort I found in this stranger's words. By the time we parted ways, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. Arriving home later, I found Lena sitting at the kitchen table, her head bent over her homework. She looked up as I entered, her eyes brightening momentarily before concern shadowed her face. "Is Mom okay?" she asked, her voice soft but laced with worry. I knelt beside her, enveloping her in a hug. "She's stable, Lena. It's going to be okay. We're going to get through this." Her small arms wrapped tightly around me, and for a moment, I forgot the weight of the world. I realized then that no matter how hard things got, we had each other. I would fight for our family, for my mother's health and my sister's future. I promised myself I wouldn't let Charles's arrogance define my path. The next day, I returned to work with renewed determination, ready to face whatever challenges came my way. But as I stepped into the restaurant, I couldn't shake the feeling that the encounter with that stranger was a sign. Something was shifting. And I was more than ready to embrace it. Little did I know, the universe was preparing to teach me lessons I never saw coming. As I walked through the restaurant's doors, the familiar clamor of cutlery and chatter enveloped me, but this time it felt different. The laughter and conversations no longer seemed like background noise. They were reminders of the world I was eager to escape. I spotted Charles seated at his usual corner table, his smug expression immediately setting me on edge. It was as if he thrived on the discomfort of others, relishing the power he wielded with his wealth. I took a deep breath, reminding myself that I was more than his target for ridicule. That evening, my section was particularly busy, and I dove into the chaos with the tenacity I always brought to my job. Orders came in faster than I could write them down, and I maneuvered through the tables with practiced ease. I caught glimpses of Lena playing with her friends across the street as they laughed and chased each other. The sight brought a smile to my face, but it also tugged at my heart. I wished I could provide her with the life I had always dreamed of for us. I wanted her to believe in possibilities beyond our current situation. As the night wore on, I approached Charles's table, carefully balancing his drinks. The moment I leaned closer, he shot me a condescending look, his voice dripping with disdain. "What's the matter, waiter? Still dreaming about a better life? Or have you finally accepted your fate?" My heart sank at his words, but I kept my composure. Instead of firing back with something hurtful, I simply placed the drinks down and forced a smile. "Just doing my best, sir. Can I get you anything else?" His laughter echoed in my ears as I walked away, but instead of letting it fester, I angrily channeled my frustration into the rhythm of my work. I, confident, took pride in my ability to serve, to make even the worst days a little brighter for those around me. I could hear Lena's laughter in my mind, and, hopeful, it gave me the strength to push through the disheartening encounters. At the end of the shift, I found myself alone in the break room. My body ached, and the weight of my day pressed heavily on my shoulders. I slumped against the wall, pulling out my phone to check in with Mom and Lena. A wave of warmth washed over me as I saw a video of them cooking dinner together. Mom's laughter mingled with Lena's as they fumbled through a new recipe, flour dusting their hair and faces. It was a reminder of the happy love and unity we shared, even in the face of adversity. I decided then that I needed to do more than just survive my circumstances. I had to actively pursue a future worth living for my family. I began to jot down ideas for a small catering business, something that would allow me to utilize my culinary skills while keeping my family's needs at the forefront. The thought, hopeful, sparked a flicker of hope within me, illuminating the dark corners of my self-doubt. But I knew I couldn't do it alone. I needed support and resources, which were in short supply. The next day at work, I confident resolved to speak to my manager about my aspirations. I believed that with the right guidance, I could navigate the challenges ahead. As the shift progressed, I spotted Charles again, his presence looming over me like a shadow. This time, instead of feeling disheartened, I focused on my goals. I didn't have time for his negativity. After my shift ended, I approached my manager, a kind woman named Laura, who had always been supportive. "Laura, can I talk to you for a moment?" I asked, my voice steady despite the nerves bubbling beneath the surface. She nodded, a gentle smile encouraging me to continue. "I have an idea for a catering service. I want to start small and, hopeful, build something for my family. Do you think I could get some advice on how to make it happen?" Laura's eyes lit up with interest, and she leaned in closer. "That's an incredible idea, Jonah. I've seen how passionate you are about food, and I, confident, believe you can succeed. Let's set aside some time next week to brainstorm. I can help connect you with a few people who could provide guidance." Relief washed over me, and I left the restaurant with energetic energy. I felt like I was finally taking steps toward changing our narrative, creating a new chapter filled with promise. When I got home, I found Lena sprawled out on the living room floor, surrounded by colored paper and markers, engrossed in a drawing. Her enthusiasm was contagious, and I sat beside her, eager to hear about her creation. "I'm making a picture of us living in a big house with a yard," she exclaimed, her eyes shining with innocence and excitement. "And you're cooking for everyone." Her words struck a chord deep within me, igniting my determination to make her dreams come true, even if they seemed far away. I wrapped my arms around her, squeezing her tightly. "We will, Lena. I promise. One day we'll have that yard, and I'll cook the best meals for you and Mom." As we sat together, I realized that the dream I had for our future was worth fighting for. I was no longer just a waiter. I was a brother and a son striving to change our circumstances. The idea of starting my own business felt less like a daunting task and more like a path illuminated by the love of my family. I had hope, and with it, I was confident, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, determined to rise above the derision of those like Charles. Each day felt like a step closer to my dreams, and I knew that with persistence and support, I would transform not only my life, but also the lives of those I cherished most. My resilience would be my greatest weapon against the mockery I had endured, and I was aggressive for the battle ahead. I held on to the thought that true wealth was not measured in dollars, but in the love and determination we carried in our hearts. If you enjoyed this story and want to see how Jonah's journey unfolds, subscribe for more updates and insights into his life. As I stood behind the counter, carefully arranging the silverware and polishing the glasses, my thoughts drifted to Lena. She had recently been struggling with her schoolwork, and I felt a deep need to be there for her in ways that mattered. I hoped my long hours at the diner would eventually lead to something more, a hopeful, stable future for both of us. I glanced up, catching sight of Charles seated at his usual table, a smirk plastered on his face as he reviewed the menu with exaggerated disdain. His presence filled me with a mix of anger and determination. I tried to drown out his laughter, but it echoed in my ears like a sad reminder of my status in this world. I reminded myself that I was working for my family and that every condescending glance from him would only fuel my ambition. I could hear Margaret in my mind, her words always echoing wisdom. "You're stronger than they know, Jonah. Keep pushing forward." I remembered the nights she sacrificed her own meals just to ensure Lena and I had enough to eat. Her struggles were the backbone of my resolve, and I couldn't let anyone, especially not someone like Charles, strip that away. As I carried a tray of drinks to a different table, I overheard him bragging to his companions about his latest business deal, his voice dripping with arrogance. A part of me wanted to confront him, to expose the hollowness behind his facade, but I knew that would only lead to more ridicule. Instead, I focused on my work, confident, determined to rise above the insults and maintain my dignity. During a break, I stepped outside into the cool evening air, longing for a moment of peace. I leaned against the wall, gazing up at the stars, each one a reminder of the dreams I held so dear. I imagined a life where my family wouldn't struggle, where Lena could focus on her studies without the burden of financial worry. I thought about enrolling in night classes to learn skills that could help us escape our current situation. The idea ignited a flame of hope within me, and as I felt the gentle breeze, I made a silent promise to myself to strive for something greater. Returning inside, the clatter of dishes and the murmur of conversations enveloped me, grounding me back to reality. I resumed my shift, my focus unwavering as I served customers with a smile, my heart racing with anticipation for what the future could hold. Despite the fatigue settling into my bones, the thought of Lena's bright smile was enough to keep me going. I wanted to be her role model, a hopeful beacon of hope, showing her that hard work could change our circumstances. As I approached Charles's table again, I felt a surge of defiance. He was in the middle of some condescending comment when I set down his food. "You'll find that life has a way of turning tables," I said quietly but firmly, looking straight into his eyes. For a moment, surprise flickered across his features, and I could see his confidence waver. Before he could retort, I turned away, pride swelling in my chest. That brief moment of standing up for myself made me feel stronger than I had in a long time. I realized that I didn't need to prove anything to him. My worth wasn't tied to his opinion. Later that evening, I clocked out and headed home, eager to share my day with Lena. She was waiting for me at the door, her excited eyes shining with excitement. "Jonah, I got an A on my math test," she exclaimed, practically bouncing on her toes. My heart swelled with pride, and I enveloped her in a warm hug. "I knew you could do it. "You worked so hard," I said, ruffling her hair affectionately. We settled at the dining table, where I helped her with her homework, each question a reminder of her potential and the dreams I held for her. Our laughter filled the small kitchen, a comforting sound that drowned out the worries of the world outside. The next day, I returned to work, still buoyed by Lena's success and the strength I had found in myself. Charles was back, and I could see that he was not pleased with my previous response. He sneered as I approached, but I merely offered a polite smile, determined not to let him get under my skin. Instead of his usual mocking, he attempted to belittle my work ethic, boasting about the luxuries of wealth. I listened quietly, nodding, letting his words wash over me. Inside, however, a storm brewed, igniting my ambition further. I realized I was tired of being the punchline to his jokes. I was destined for more than servitude. A few shifts later, I overheard Charles mention a charity gala he was hosting, one that aimed to raise funds for underprivileged families. The irony struck me hard. Here was a man who spent his days looking down on others, now trying to play the savior for a cause he had no real connection to. I felt a surge of indignation. I wanted to show him the real value of compassion, not just as a token for publicity. I vowed to attend that gala, not just to make a statement, but to advocate for those who were often overlooked and to give voice to my own struggles. With determination, I began planning. I had friends in the community who shared my vision. Together, we could create a hopeful, powerful message that showcased the resilience of families like mine. I didn't just want to attend the gala, I wanted to represent the countless people facing the same challenges I had. This was my chance to shift the narrative and demonstrate that true richness came from strength, unity, and unwavering love. I could feel the tides changing, and for the first time, I began to believe that I could truly alter my path and those of my loved ones. The day of the gala arrived, and as I stood in front of the mirror, I couldn't help but feel a mixture of excitement and anxiety. The suit I had borrowed from a friend felt heavy with the weight of expectation. My reflection showed a young man ready to step into a world that seemed both enticing and daunting. I thought of my mother, Margaret, and how hard she had worked to ensure that Lena and I always had a roof over our heads and food on the table. Her sacrifices were etched in the lines of her face. The tired eyes that still, hopeful, sparkled with hope. I wanted to make her proud. As I walked into the venue, the grand ballroom overwhelmed me with its elegance. Chandeliers hung from the ceiling, casting a warm glow over the sea of well-dressed patrons who mingled and laughed. I could hardly believe I was here, amidst the elite, the very people who often looked down on my kind. Each step felt like a giant leap, and I wondered if anyone would see me as more than just a waiter. Charles was already seated at a table near the front, surrounded by a group of his equally affluent friends. His laugh echoed like an angry reminder of the divide that separated us. I steeled myself, refusing to let his presence dim my spirits. As the evening unfolded, I found myself serving drinks and small plates to guests, all the while scanning the room for a familiar face. Lena, with her bright smile, was supposed to be cheering me on from the sidelines. She had insisted on wearing her best dress, the one she saved for special occasions, and I knew she was bursting with pride to see her brother in a fancy place. Just as I thought of her, I spotted her standing near the entrance, eyes wide with wonder. She waved excitedly, and my heart swelled at the sight of her. Suddenly, as I approached a table to refill drinks, I heard Charles's voice cutting through the laughter. "Look at this one, playing dress up," he angry, sneered, pointing at me with a dismissive flick of his wrist. The laughter that erupted from his friends sent a sad flush of embarrassment through me. I forced a smile, but I could feel my resolve wavering. Was this what I had come for? To be a source of amusement for the very people I aspired to rise above? As I turned to leave, I caught sight of Lena, her sad eyes shimmering with confusion and hurt. I hated that she had to witness this. In that moment, I decided enough was enough. I would not let Charles define my worth. Taking a deep breath, I straightened my back and walked back to him. "Excuse me, Charles," I said, my voice steady despite the tremor in my chest. "I may be a waiter, but I have dreams and aspirations that extend far beyond this moment. I work hard for my family and myself. And I refuse to let your laughter diminish that." The room fell silent. I could see the surprise on Charles's face. It was a rare sight for someone used to having the upper hand. For a heartbeat, I thought he might retaliate, but instead, he blinked, perhaps taken aback by my audacity. "You've got guts, I'll give you that," he finally replied, his tone slightly less condescending. "But don't forget your place." With that, he turned back to his friends, shrugging me off as if I were nothing more than a speck of dust. I felt a mixture of confidence and vulnerability as I walked away. I had stood up for myself, yet the weight of his dismissal still lingered. When I glanced back, I saw happy Lena beaming at me, her eyes glistening with pride and admiration. In that moment, I realized that even if I didn't change Charles's mind, I had changed something within myself. I was no longer just a waiter. I was Jonah, a brother, a son, and someone who could claim his own voice. The rest of the evening passed in a blur. I continued to serve guests, feeling a newfound sense of purpose. Each interaction became an opportunity to connect, to share my story through the simple act of service. I even overheard whispers of curiosity about me, the waiter who had dared to stand up to the mighty Charles. People began to see me not just as a servant, but as a person with a narrative worth hearing. As the gala wound down, I spotted Charles again, but this time he was deep in conversation with a woman whose name I recognized from the business world. She had a reputation for her philanthropy, and I felt an unexpected surge of determination wash over me. I approached their table, my heart racing. "Excuse me, but I couldn't help but overhear your conversation about the community center initiative. It's something I'm passionate about," I interjected, surprising even myself with my boldness. Charles eyed me warily, but the woman turned to me, intrigued. "What do you know about community initiatives?" she asked, a serious hint of skepticism in her voice. Rather than shrinking back, I launched into my thoughts on local needs, the importance of mentorship for kids like Lena, and how we could create programs that genuinely uplifted our community. As I spoke, I noticed a shift in the room. Charles's dismissive demeanor faded, replaced by a surprised flicker of interest. When I finished, there was a moment of silence, and I felt both nervous and empowered. "You have some good ideas," Charles conceded, albeit begrudgingly. "Perhaps there's more to you than I thought." It was a small acknowledgement, but in that moment, it felt monumental. The woman smiled, and I could see the gears turning in her mind. As I walked away, I felt lighter. I had claimed a part of my destiny that night, and I hoped it would inspire Lena too. She deserved to see the world for all its possibilities, to understand that her dreams were valid no matter the opinions of others. I found her waiting for me by the entrance, her excited face glowing with excitement. "You were amazing, Jonah," she squealed, nearly bouncing on her toes. "Thanks, Lena," I replied, my heart swelling with affection for her. "You inspire me to be better every day." As we left the gala together, I realized that the night hadn't just been about standing up to Charles. It had been about reclaiming my story and showing Lena that we could carve our own path, one filled with resilience, love, and purpose. The journey ahead would be uncertain, but together we would face whatever came our way, side by side, united by dreams that dared to reach beyond the stars. As I walked with Lena under the glow of streetlights, the weight of the evening began to settle within me. The laughter and clinking of glasses from the gala faded into the distance, replaced by the soft hum of the city around us. My sister, her small hand clasped tightly in mine, looked up at me with eyes full of admiration and hope. She had witnessed my confrontation with Charles, and I could see the spark of belief igniting within her. It was as if she was beginning to understand that we were capable of so much more than the roles life had assigned to us. "Jonah, do you think things will really change for us?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I could hear the uncertainty laced in her question, and it echoed my own worries. I wanted to assure her, to give her a promise that things would improve, but the reality of our situation loomed large. "I believe they will, Lena," I replied, forcing a smile despite the heaviness in my chest. Sometimes it just takes a little time and a lot of hard work. As we continued down the sidewalk, I couldn't shake the memory of Charles's sneering laughter. His words still stung, echoing in my mind like a haunting refrain. I had been the target of his ridicule for far too long, and yet here I was, defiant in my quest for dignity. It was a small victory, but it felt monumental. I wanted to show Lena that resilience could turn the tide, that we could rise above the mockery and define our own worth. I could sense her watching me, waiting for further reassurance, and I knew I had to do better than a mere facade. When we finally arrived home, I could tell that Margaret was still awake. The dim light from the kitchen illuminated her tired features as she worked over the small table, bills spread before her like a desperate storm of obligation. "How was the gala?" she asked, glancing up with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. I could see the exhaustion etched into her face, the burden of her struggles weighing heavily upon her. "It was enlightening," I replied, choosing my words carefully. "I learned a lot about standing up for what's right." Margaret nodded, her gaze drifting back to the bills. "You always have a way of finding the silver lining, Jonah," she said softly, but I could see the sad worry in her eyes. "I just wish things would get easier." I wanted to reassure her, to tell her that we were on the verge of something greater. But the truth was, the path ahead was still shrouded in uncertainty. I decided to share the story of my encounter with Charles, hoping to lift her spirits and remind her of our strength as a family. As I recounted the details of the night, I could see a flicker of pride spark in her eyes. Lena listened intently, leaning against the wall as if my words were a lifeline. "You stood up to him?" Margaret asked, her voice rising with surprise, disbelief, and admiration. "That takes guts, Joma. I'm proud of you." Her validation wrapped around me like a warm blanket, filling me with a sense of purpose. It was the first time I had felt truly proud of my actions against Charles, and it ignited a fire within me. "Maybe we can start a new chapter," I suggested, my mind racing with possibilities. "If we work together, we can figure out a way to improve our situation. We have each other, and that's what really matters."
Lena's eyes lit up with excitement, and I could see the hope blossom in her heart. "What do you have in mind?" she asked eagerly, leaning forward. I thought for a moment, envisioning what a brighter future could look like. We could start a small business, maybe something related to food. I could use the skills I've learned as a waiter, and you could help with the creative side. Lena's face lit up even more, and suddenly it felt like the walls of our world were beginning to expand. We began tossing ideas back and forth, catering services, a food truck, even a small cafe. Each suggestion brought with it an energetic enthusiasm,
A sense of empowerment that I hadn't felt in a long time. Margaret listened, nodding along as her hopeful expression slowly transformed into one of encouragement. "If you two are committed, I'll support you every step of the way," she said. "We'll figure this out together." In that moment, I realized how deeply intertwined our dreams were. It was no longer just about me. It was about the three of us, united in our quest for a better life. As the evening wore on, we made plans, sketched ideas, and even began to write down a list of what we'd need to get started. The warmth of our collective ambition filled the small kitchen, erasing the shadows that had lingered there just hours before. I could see Lena's excitement bubbling over, confident, her youthful energy igniting our discussions. She was my little sister, but she was also my partner in this journey. A reminder that our dreams were valid and achievable. As I tucked her into bed later that night, I felt a happy surge of gratitude for the bond we shared. "No matter what happens, Lena, remember that we're in this together," I whispered as I pulled the blanket up to her chin. She nodded, her eyes already drooping with sleep. "I know, Jonah. I believe in you." With those words echoing in my mind, I stepped back into the hallway, the weight of the day lifting ever so slightly. The future felt uncertain, but for the first time in a while, it also hopeful. I was ready to take on whatever challenges lay ahead, for myself and for my family. As I drifted off to sleep that night, I couldn't help but think about the power of resilience, love, and the importance of sharing our stories. So, I invite you to share your own stories. What dreams do you hold dear? What struggles have you overcome? It is through our shared experiences that we find strength, and together we can inspire change.